Good evening. I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the Science Café on Youth Mental Health Wellness webinar. My name is Sergio Aguilar Gaxiola, and I'm a professor at the UC Davis School of Medicine and the director of the Center for Reducing Health Disparities and director of our community engagement program of the Clinical and Translational Science Center. The Science Cafés are community conversations we are having around topics that are of interest to the public. The two main goals of the UC Davis CTSC Community Engagement Program, Science Café series, are to, first, strengthen science literacy by engaging communities and the public, and also translational scientists in an informal setting through bi-directional dialogue and of current scientific and health-related issues and their impact on our society and the public. And the second is to enhance the public trust of communities on science. The first Science Café series was launched on June of 2016, almost 9 years ago, and we had in-person meetings then. On April, at the end of April of 2020, we had the first virtual Science Café session, and all the sessions, Science Café sessions, had been virtual since then. I want to thank Vanessa Trujillo, who is our program manager of the Community Engagement Program at UC Davis, the CTSC, Elliot Hosman Turrubiate, Bart and Suzanne Edises, for their help organizing this Science Café event. I also want to introduce Aina Glisick, who is a clinician and mental health program coordinator of Sacramento County Behavioral Health Division. Aina and her name and phone number will be shared in the chat throughout the webinar in case someone needs to speak with her. She will also join us. Actually, she is a part of the panelist room. You will see her name. I also want to thank the Sacramento Youth Mental Health Group for their hard work and dedication planning for several months this event. They have done just a fantastic job preparing for this webinar. They will facilitate this webinar. I'll now pass it on to Claire Conway, who is introducing the Sacramento Youth Mental Health Group. Claire?
Thank you so much, Dr. Aguilar. Before we begin this webinar, SacYMH wants you all to be aware that we intend to speak on some sensitive topics today. In this program, we will define mental health and wellness, as well as discuss coping skills based on our own personal experiences and how to take care of ourselves. Although we will be focusing on how to combat these struggles, discussing mental illness, mental challenges, and the battles of others may elicit strong emotional responses in some. Please protect your peace and look after yourself today. If you need to leave the meeting at any time, please do so. Finally, text all caps HOME to 741-741 for non-crisis related mental health assistance, or call 988 in a crisis situation. Now a little about ourselves as a group. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We are Sacramento Youth Mental Health, or SacYMH, and we are a youth-run nonprofit advocacy organization working to improve the mental health crisis in teens today. In simpler terms, this means we are a group of teenagers who have seen how intensely kids are struggling these days. Between anxiety, depression, gender identity, school stress, eating disorders, body issues, and everything in between, we see these battles within ourselves, our peers, and far too often we witness those we care about not getting proper help. Formed in 2019 by a group of friends who knew far too well what watching their peers slowly lose themselves to mental illness looked like, SacYMH has made it their mission to create positive change for those who are battling. Recently, this past September, our current group of members hosted a booth at the Farm to Fork Festival, working to raise the concern of our community and fighting to get the attention of adults in order to wake them up and bring more resources to teens. Our mission is to speak and hear directly from youth, as teens themselves are the only ones who know what services they need and what effective help looks like. Together, we are forging a path to the future, one where no one is fighting their minds. No one is alone in their minds, fighting a losing battle. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled you're here. Also, remember to stay on till the end to enter our prize raffle. We will be handing out a survey, and you will have to fill it out in order to be entered.
Right. Hi, everyone. It's great to have you here. My name is Natanya, and I'm actually a first-year undergraduate student studying psychology at UC Davis. And a little bit about why I'm here is because I'm very passionate about social and behavioral health and the wide intersection that the field has with youth well-being and all aspects of our daily life. And my passion grows from my own experiences with mental health, but also seeing the experiences of those around me. And dealing with depression and anxiety myself made me feel a bunch of insecurities, and I had a hard time feeling worthy, but these feelings allowed me to feel empathy towards those going through the same feelings or anything different or anything worse. And I found that speaking out about it and sharing it was something that made me feel really empowered. And Sacramento Youth Mental Health gives me so many opportunities to do that. So I love that I get to be here with you guys.
Hi, my name is Meredith. I'm 16 and I'm a junior at Rio Americano High School in Sacramento. Like a lot of teens, I started to notice my mental health around middle school, especially when COVID hit. I started to realize I had anxiety, and now looking back on it, I realized it was always prevalent in my life. With the help of my mom and various coping strategies, which I will talk about later, I now know how to set boundaries and manage my anxiety. And because of these experiences, I wanted to join SacYMH to help others do the same.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chad. I'm 15 years old and a sophomore at Davis Senior High School. My mental health journey began in middle school, which I'm sure many of you can relate to. It especially escalated during the pandemic. I struggled intensely to work on myself and to accept my own issues. When my mental health reached an all-time low, I was eventually recommended to therapy, which did not begin well. But it is totally okay to not feel seen by a therapist. That is not your fault. It might take some time to get a therapist that will fully understand you, but in the end, it is totally worth it. But sometimes therapy isn't for everyone, and that is also completely fine. Although I don't do therapy anymore, I believe it is still a great resource overall. To this day, I still struggle with my mental health, but I always remind myself of the things to come and that I will be okay. That is why I want to be in SacYMH, to remind other people that they are valued and to spread information to stop the stigma of mental health.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sheetal. I'm 15 years old and I'm a sophomore at McClatchy High School. I've been interested in mental health for a while, and throughout middle school is also when I started to notice that I personally was struggling with my own mental health for a variety of reasons, especially in 7th grade. And even now, I still tend to struggle with different things, and it definitely puts this extra weight on my life, which makes me wish I opened up about my mental health sooner, so I wouldn't have had to go through it all alone, which is why I was so excited to join this group to try and help others not feel the way I do and spread awareness about mental health and mental wellness.
Hello, my name is Claire. I'm 16 years old and I'm a sophomore at McClatchy High School. I have dealt with mental illness firsthand, and in middle school developed a deeply unhealthy relationship with food and exercise, and witnessed peers go through the same. Eventually, through the intervention of others, I was able to get help and even took a while off school to get adequate treatment, and currently still see a therapist. By coming out of this dark place, I learned what it means to want to live a genuinely happy life, and I'm making it my mission for other kids to experience this as well. No kid should be fighting these battles alone. No kid should be left in a dark place with no light in sight. No kid should have to feel the way I felt. So we are here today to battle the mental health crisis as teens face and share with you a little bit about mental wellness.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tarek, and I'm a junior at McClatchy High School. The pandemic also created a lot of problems for me. When I returned, I was feeling very depressed and I didn't know how to express myself. I started going to therapy and talking to people, and that helped a lot. The next year, I transferred to McClatchy, and things got a lot better. I don't go to therapy now, and I consider myself to be doing great. More recently, I've become more involved in mental health advocacy to encourage people to share their thoughts and stories and help break the stigma of the discussion.
Hi, my name is Grace, and I am a sophomore at McClatchy High School. Like many of us, the pandemic was a time when I began to understand the effects of mental health and mental well-being in my life, even if I didn't fully understand what was wrong with me. But that's just the thing. There was nothing wrong with me then as I struggled through the effects of living in an isolated world, and there's nothing wrong with me now as I deal with the repercussions of staying silent in my times of mental turmoil. Mental health has been a prevalent theme in my life, whether or not I have talked about it, and it can affect me now at 15 years old just as much as it did when I was 12 and 13. I believe in the importance of reaching out to one another and encouraging people to be more open-minded about what they or others are going through. I want people to have the help that I didn't know about. I am here to spread awareness and open up the conversation to talk about it. Everybody deserves to be heard.
So as Claire mentioned, we recently held a booth at the Farm to Fork event in Sacramento, where we asked those visiting our booth to answer survey questions. We got a lot of responses and wanted to share what we found as it relates to what we were talking about today. So one of the questions we asked people was, how would you describe your mental health in the last 30 days? So as you can see, the 14 through 18-year-old group had the least number of good days, with 19 to 24-year-olds and 11 through 13-year-olds being the second worst. Another question we asked was, have you faced any barriers in accessing mental health services? For teens and most other groups, the biggest problem was not knowing where to start. Another big barrier was anxiety about seeking help. And a big overarching barrier among all the groups was time. Sorry, just a second, technical difficulties. There we go.
All right. So right now, if you guys look at your screen, you're going to see a question. And at the top of the slide, it says join mentimeter.com and then use that following code. So we'd like you guys to go to mentimeter.com and use the code above so you can join us in this activity. And there's also the link in the chat. So how this is going to work is just simply answer what's one word to describe how you're feeling right now. And then we're going to watch everybody's responses come up, just like that one, and just kind of look at that. Okay, so far we have encouraged, happy, anxious, overwhelmed. Those are all definitely reasonable emotions that I think we've all felt before. Whoever's feeling encouraged, I think that's great. Overwhelmed definitely makes sense. There can be some difficult topics we're discussing. Frustrated makes sense. Also, just so everybody knows, this is anonymous, so you can put whatever you'd like. Nervous and anxious are definitely big ones coming up. Also very understandable. Okay, we're going to take about 30 more seconds, so make sure you guys put your responses in so we can move on. But thank you all for participating.
So we'd like to start off our discussion by defining the difference between mental health versus mental wellness. The CDC defines mental health as including our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, and determines how we deal with stress, relate to others, and make decisions. And while mental wellness is often used interchangeably with mental health, it's not exactly the same thing. Mental wellness is narrowed down to the positive framing of our mental health. It represents stability and healthy functioning within our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Some signs of mental wellness could be being able to sustain healthy relationships, having the motivation to do things productively, and having effective coping mechanisms that help you deal with stress in a positive way. And we know that it's very difficult for us to achieve this, but today we're going to try to help all of you learn more about it and teach you some ways to improve your own mental wellness based on our experiences.
So just like before, this is going to be what positively impacts your mental health, where you guys can all just put in your responses and we'll kind of look at them again. So I know for me personally, there's a lot of things that positively impact my mental health, some like good coping skills, pets as well. Oh yeah, here we have spending time with friends. That's definitely a really important one. Exercise. I can definitely relate to that. Family, very important. Walking. Those are all skills I have as well. Friends and family, yeah. Pets, absolutely. My cat was just over here a minute ago. Talking with family, that's definitely important. Outdoors. Yeah, those are all great responses. And I mean, I think I can personally relate to all of them, which is very interesting because a lot of those, I think many of us have in common. Sleep, that's a good one. All right, let's take about 30 more seconds because I think most of the responses are in. But yeah, there's definitely some overlaps as well. Exercise, walking, running, good company, conversation, family, helping people. That's a really important one as well. Hiking, that also is kind of form of exercise. So we obviously have some things in common. And we can all relate to each other. All right, moving on.
Okay, so now we are going to talk about some of the impacts of mental wellness. So the first impact is social connections. And social connectedness is when you feel like you belong and have the support and care you need, as well as the number, quality, and diversity of relationships, according to the Center for Disease Control. So social connections are a major factor in one's mental health and well-being. They help us cope better with hard times, depression, anxiety, and stress. Social connections include relationships with trusted adults, being part of a community such as a sports team, a club, or a religious institution, and creating relationships with people your own age that have similar interests and values as you. So now we have another question. So how have social connections had a positive impact in your life? Once again, put in your answers and we can look at them together. And once again, it's anonymous. Okay, if you need to reconnect, the code is at the top. Okay, there we go. My computer was clearly slow. Yeah, I have made friends I can open up to. That's great. I love hanging out with my friends. They definitely have a positive impact on me. Yeah, people to rely on. Yeah, people have a big impact on your life. Safe places. Yeah, we've been trying to get many safe places established at schools, and that's a big thing that's going around right now. That's nice. They make me smile. That. Yeah, definitely having people is the big overall theme here. And yeah, friends and family make a big difference in your mental health. Yeah, my teachers and coaches. Yeah, my I do cross country, and my cross country coach is great and definitely has a good impact on my mental health. Yeah, makes me feel less alone. Yeah, clearly, as I said before, big overarching theme here is people. We all need people to connect with. Okay, we are going to move on about 30 seconds. So get any last responses in. Okay, so moving on, the benefits of social connections. So these social connections have numerous physical and mental health benefits. For example, the Center for Disease Control states that people with stronger social bonds have a 50% increased likelihood of survival than those who have fewer social connections. And that social connections lead to less stress and better sleep, better overall health that can lead to a longer life, healthier habits and behaviors, better quality of life, and a sense of belonging. For teenagers, it is so important to have a good support system for whenever they are going through hard times. For me, I know that it is so nice to have multiple friends that I can talk to about my problems or anxiety. For example, whenever I'm nervous about a social event, I know that I can commiserate with my friends who also are having anxiety about that same social event. And having a good support system makes my life so much easier and definitely impacts my mental health.
The second area we'd like to cover is physical well-being. So, although the mind and body are often viewed as being very separate, mental and physical health are actually very closely related. Good mental health can positively affect your physical health. In return, poor mental health can negatively affect your physical health. When one is struggling with mental health, such as dealing with increased stress, anxieties, or depressed periods, they may find it difficult to muster the energy to do any range of things, exercising, walking, or even just getting out of bed. This can then lead to more extreme things in certain circumstances, such as unhealthy eating habits, substance abuse, unhygienic habits, and irregular exercise habits, which can present themselves in various ways, such as complete lack of exercise or an excess of unnecessary exercise. Conversely, when one is at peace with their mind, it can be seen through the way we take care of our bodies, whether that be something like going for a run or something as simple as just getting out of bed every day. It doesn't have to be fancy. Every day we move our body and treat it as our home is a win. It is important to recognize that focusing our self-care on only our mental well-being won't necessarily fix our physical well-being, and focusing only on our physical well-being won't necessarily be enough on its own to fix our mental well-being. Next slide. So the next question we'd like to ask is, what can you do to help your body and mind feel the best they can? Yeah, I like going for walks as well. I find that being able to get the fresh air is very helpful to clear my mind if I'm feeling anxious or unmotivated. Yeah, drinking water is really good. Being hydrated can help prevent headaches, and it makes you feel a lot less tired as well. Yeah, just really any form of exercise. I'm seeing the theme of sleep as well is very important. Meditation, yeah, taking a moment to just center yourself and clear your mind of everything that's going on can be really helpful and make you feel a lot calmer, as well as, give your body time to rest. I would also like to mention it's important to have a balance between, how much physical activity you do and resting as well, because our body needs both, and both will benefit our mental health. Okay, just a few more seconds, and then I think we're ready to move on to the next slide.
So these are some things you could do to manage your physical health. Number one is making exercise a regular habit. And this improves muscle functionality, hormone levels, and strengthens your body, easing the daily stresses on it. Doesn't have to look like going to the gym and running 10 miles on a treadmill every day. Moderation is important. Start small and do things that make you happy. Second thing is getting a good diet, and this could be pretty easy to do. You just got to find the right stuff. It doesn't mean you have to weigh yourself against others or go crazy. Like, it's just whatever you can do to help yourself. Also, listening to your body and knowing your limits, not overworking yourself is a really important thing, as well as getting regular sleep on the regular. About 8 hours is recommended.
Next slide. Actually, can you go back? Thank you. So some personal connections I have and would like to share with you all is that it is sometimes very hard to feel motivated to take care of myself and, follow this list of all of these things to keep me healthy when I'm feeling down. And it's especially hard to try and take care of my body. It feels easier to just stay a couch potato and not think about the effects of any unhealthy habits. But during times when I'm feeling this way, I have found that when I take time to give my body the care it needs, such as simple physical activity, eating a balanced meal, going to bed and waking up on time, or just taking a moment to breathe, my mood lightens and I don't feel as tired. I actually end up having more motivation for the day, and I feel good for taking care of myself. I used to skip breakfast every morning because I didn't feel as though it had much value or added anything to my day, but then I would just end up feeling tired and grumpy at school just for the rest of the day. And as I have made eating breakfast before school a more consistent habit in my life, I have felt my performance not just in the classroom, but with friendships, interactions with others, and my overall mindset about the day change for the better. Giving your body the time and attention it needs is a great way to bring peace to your mind as well. By focusing on how you can improve your physical health and showing your body the respect it deserves for protecting your beautiful mind, you will find that your mental health will improve as well. And now you can go to the next slide.
Mental health has many effects on our performance in school. Before I start this, just to remind you, grades do not and never will determine your worth, your future, or your values. But when your mental health is deteriorating, the motivation to do schoolwork depletes as well. Work that used to display itself as like an easy 10-minute duty becomes increasingly overwhelming. As this worsening mental health affects sleep, a lack of sleep can reduce focus in class and cause further difficulty in completing assignments. Having a low mood also during school makes it difficult to socialize and connect with peers. maintaining relationships at school becomes harder and harder. According to a survey by the American College Health Association, the main mental health factors that impact school are stress, anxiety, sleep difficulty, and depression. For me, when I'm down, it interrupts my schoolwork for the night. But just a reminder that is totally okay. It's okay to be in a state of emotional stress and to feel vulnerable. It's okay if you have a panic attack, whether something provokes it or not. But then I lose sleep to the comfort I find in the quiet of the night. However, this also negatively affects my sleep, and in the morning, I feel destroyed. During class, my eyes begin to blur out and I space out, and I feel like there's just a heavy weight on my shoulder. However, there are totally ways to combat this. To manage the effects of my mental health on school, I take deep breaths and focus on my surroundings. I remind myself that I will be okay. And some things you can tell yourself are that it's okay to struggle, it's okay to not be on top of everything, it is okay to not feel comfortable in your own skin. Although I can't just erase the effects of my mental health, I can feel better by hanging out with my friends at school or going to practice, playing a sport that I love with my teammates. And also eating. Eating is so important. It's so essential to life and energy. And as Grace said, eating breakfast is really important. Lastly, you can totally talk to a teacher for help. If you need it, ask for it. It is so important to communicate to your teachers who can accommodate your needs at school. So, what do you do to manage schoolwork? Take naps. Yes. Those afternoon naps hit really well. They're really good. It's like when you wake up, kind of refreshed, but taking breaks is so important. Like getting a drink of water, getting up. Setting timers is really important. Like you really need to have breaks. Oh my gosh, yeah, I love playing games when I take breaks. Setting goals is also something I do. This helps me get motivated. And I procrastinate a lot, so that's something I need to work on. And reducing distractions is really important. Stay focused on your work, which can be really hard. Just give it a little more time. Eat a snack. Yes, I love eating when I work. Yeah, doing homework every day, it's hard. Like when you get home, you're tired. Especially if you have extracurriculars, just sucks a lot. But you can do it, We get through it. Yes, exactly. I like switching environments a lot. Sometimes I go to coffee shops, sometimes I'm in my room. It just helps refresh me a lot. So I really like the idea of switching environments. Okay, I think it's time to move on. I really like the responses, so thank you guys so much.
So, beyond school, our ability to complete our daily functions is another aspect that can be impacted by our mental health and well being. Daily functions include everyday tasks such as personal hygiene, eating habits, sleeping habits, and taking care of your physical body in general, as well as hobbies and doing things that you love. And when you're struggling with your mental health, these kinds of things can become difficult to do for a variety of reasons. Some possible causes could be lack of motivation, as many mental conditions, such as depression, can take away our motivation to do anything. Difficult tasks like homework, especially, but even things that you love or used to like doing can start to feel like a chore. You might start to feel hopeless and like there's no point in doing things like taking a shower or changing your clothes or even getting out of bed in the morning. Another reason could be lack of energy, as mental conditions most definitely take a toll on our well being and can be highly emotionally draining. And emotional exhaustion has just as much of an effect on our performance as physical exhaustion can. And it can also be due to struggles with concentrating. Losing your focus is a very common side effect of conditions like anxiety, and this can be like not being able to pay attention to people or in school, or even not being able to pay attention to your body's needs, like when you're hungry or tired, or etc. And all of these factors can be reasons why we lose the ability to take care of our daily needs, which then causes our physical health to decline. And that in turn can cause our mental health to decline even more, creating this vicious cycle. And just as we discussed earlier, it's important to remember that your physical health is tied to your mental health, and your ability to complete daily functions affects your physical health. Scientifically speaking, when your body is physically healthy and taken care of, your cortisol levels are reduced, and that's your stress hormone, and your dopamine levels increase, which is your feel good hormone, which makes you happier overall and gives you the energy and motivation to complete difficult tasks, which can also help you stay less stressed, creating a more positive cycle. And now that we're aware of the link between the two, it's very important to remember to take care of yourself and your body, which can include remembering to eat and drink water regularly, getting the most possible sleep you can, keeping up on your hygiene and showering regularly, and just overall listening to your body's needs and not ignoring or putting them off. A way that has helped me to do this was by creating self-care routines, making these things more enjoyable for me and making me less likely to neglect them. So for me, I like to do skincare, and things like getting ready in the morning can be very therapeutic, treating myself to my favorite foods, and recognizing how much more energized and better I feel after getting a good night's sleep as compared to not getting as much have helped me a lot. And so now we'd like to ask you, what are some things you like to do as self-care? So take some time to answer. Laying in bed, absolutely. Meditation, I really like doing yoga, so I definitely relate to that. Taking time to read, taking a bubble bath and watching my favorite TV show, exercise, practicing piano, sleeping. All of these are great. It's definitely important to take time for your hobbies, walking with your dog, going out with friends, snacks, reading, listening to the river. Nice. It's important to be out in nature. Netflix marathon. I definitely relate to that one. You can take 30 more seconds or so before we move on. Laughing, hanging out with people. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for responding.
All right, now we'll be moving on to emotional health. So, emotional health is another facet of our well being that involves resilience in the face of our daily life's ups and downs. And some of the positive things that can come along with your emotional health are feeling positive emotions like joy, satisfaction, and love, being optimistic, and having a solid sense of your self esteem, and feeling engaged in life and feeling like it has meaning and purpose. So, can we please go to the next slide? So we have another question. What is something that makes you feel joyful in life? Right, accomplishment, definitely powder skiing. Interesting. My friends, of course. Puppies, yes. My art, I also love doing art. I feel like it's very therapeutic. Writing, being with my family and friends, yes, for sure. Rake swims. Ooh, that sounds refreshing. Maybe not in this weather though, or maybe. All right, I think we'll wait 30 more seconds before moving on. Laying on the beach. Ooh, that's nice if you live near a beach. Cuddling my dog 100% works, I can confirm. Pretty weather, such as the sky or sunshine. Yes, for sure. Right. I think we can move on. All right. So, one thing that can offset our emotional health is anxiety, which, according to the World Health Organization, is a really prevalent issue among adolescents, especially those who are on the older side, their teenage years. And anxiety is an emotion that can be characterized in a lot of different ways. So, the American Psychological Association characterizes it as feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes like increased blood pressure. Other symptoms can be sweating, shakiness, and a speedy heart rate. And feelings of anxiety can also cause people to have reoccurring intrusive thoughts or concerns. And oftentimes we associate anxiety with fear, but these two are not exactly the same concepts. Anxiety is considered a long lasting response that is future oriented, which is broadly focused on diffusing a threat, while fear is more of a short lived response and is usually directed towards a clear threat in front of you. For example, personally, I've always been a really big overthinker and a perfectionist, and I used to, sometimes still do, worry about those around me and their perceptions of me, how others thought of how I spoke or how I looked. And that led me to feel constant anxiety in social settings, in regards to my academics and even just when I was sitting alone with my own thoughts. And that made me feel the constant need to be validated, which also led to another aspect of emotional health, which is depression. And as we discussed, mental health has a lot more to do with our brain and our thoughts, while emotional health ties into a lot of aspects of our life. And depression can really bog you down and influence a lot of parts of our lives. For instance, if we have a lot of self criticism or struggle to have a positive self perception or esteem, it's really easy to feel constantly in this low energy state. And what I found helped me a lot was recognizing these negative thoughts and negative self talk, which can often be perpetual, and try to transform those actively into more positive thoughts. And I just want to preface by saying that this is not quote unquote toxic positivity, which is not to say that you should repress any emotions or feel like you shouldn't be having them and falsely act like everything is okay when really it isn't. And it's totally okay to acknowledge that, but also to acknowledge that you don't need to be thinking that way and you can reframe your thoughts. One example of this is, say you only have one friend at school and thinking that you're alone in that, you could also say that, there are a lot of people who don't even have one friend. You can practice gratitude instead in having this one friend. Or if you don't have any friends, at least you aren't surrounded by a bunch of friends who don't like you that much or are flaky or fake. And as cheesy as this is, I find the quote to be true that life is 1% what happens to you and 99% how you look at it. So it can also feel really easy to get stuck in a cycle of negativity and feel pessimistic about everything, but just know that it doesn't have to feel that way. And you're also not alone in feeling that way. For example, if there's something that you don't like about yourself, like your physical features or something else, just know that there's no need to be perfect, which is a very much made up idea. Nothing about you is bad or unlovable or makes you a bad person, even if it's not so admirable. And if you're ever struggling, just know that there are plenty of people who care and want to hear and are willing to help you. And if you feel like there's no one to turn to, there are always helplines. There are us in this conversation right now, and plenty of resources to talk to someone. can move on to the next slide.
So we can actually move on to the next slide here in a second, but we're going to be discussing our personal coping skills. So here we'd like to ask you guys, before we share what we use as coping skills, how do you guys cope with stress or anxiety? And see kind of how much we can all relate. Journaling and coloring. I'm a big fan of journaling. You guys are going to hear me talk about that in a moment, but that is definitely a really important one for me. Exercise, definitely I can relate to that one. I know we have a lot of athletes here. Reading, absolutely. Music. Do something, just staying busy. Music, again, yeah. Deep breaths, getting sleep, absolutely. One thing I've learned is that pretty much everybody has stress and anxiety at some point, and everybody needs to cope. And when we find unhealthy coping skills is when dangerous behaviors occur. But when you can replace those with healthy coping skills, like some of these, that's when you can really improve your life. So yeah, be in contact with nature, absolutely. Again, these are all positive coping skills you can use in times of need. Dance, that's, I'm personally not a dancer, but I applaud anybody who is. Talk to a friend, absolutely. I think talking things out is one of the most important things we can do to just alleviate some of the stress on our own minds. Okay, we'll take about 30 more seconds here. Definitely having some really good responses. I hope if there's any that you guys haven't tried yet that you're saying, you can maybe take a shot at them. Watching movies. It's a good one. Okay, we could move on now. So yeah, like I was saying before, here are personal examples of coping skills we use. And personally, I can just say a lot of them are going to be able to relate to how you guys feel as well.
So for me, I really like to do journaling because I think it's an easy way to get all of your thoughts out onto something concrete in case you don't feel comfortable talking about it with someone. I think it's very cathartic because getting your thoughts out helps you not keep it all inside where they will eventually boil over. It's cool for record keeping purposes because you can look back and read your past journal entries and see how far you've come and grown as a person. I personally journal about once a week, which I think is helpful because it does take some time depending on how much you write, but you're always able to journal whenever you feel like it or whenever you need to get something out. I also like to do yoga, which I think is great because you're getting to move your body around and exercise, but it's a lot more slow paced and calm if you're not the most athletic person. And I've noticed that it's helped me feel more grounded and less space. So I would definitely recommend trying it or trying journaling. And I also simply like talking to my friends or my siblings to help me feel better.
Okay, so some of my coping skills. Well, my first one is crocheting. So oftentimes I tend to overthink, even when I'm watching TV or listening to something. So I crochet or knit as well to keep my mind occupied and stop myself from overthinking so much. I also tend to move a lot, like I tap my leg up and down, I run my hands through my hair, I crack my knuckles. So having something to do with my hands gives me an output for all that energy. And crocheting and knitting are also great because you can create really cool things. For example, I made my friends some stuffed animals. I've crocheted a ton of bags. I've made a shirt and I'm currently working on a shirt. So this is just a really good thing, and you get to make a bunch of gifts for people as well. And then I think this is also a common thing for people with anxiety, but I watch my favorite shows over and over again. This just makes it so that I can relax while watching TV after a stressful day. Because I'm sometimes watching movies or TV shows can stress me out when I'm not sure what's going to happen next, and if I'm really attached to the characters. So some shows that I love to rewatch are The Office, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Modern Family, and there's a few more that I just love to rewatch. Another coping skill I use is running, and I know a lot of people don't like doing a lot of physical exercise, but for me, it's a good way to exercise my body while also helping my mind because of the endorphins and other oh my gosh, I can't speak today, hormones that physical activity releases. And oftentimes, something during school upsets me, but when I go to cross country practice, even though it is difficult, I feel better afterwards.
Okay, the first coping skill I'd like to share is venting to parents. So I recommend finding a trusted adult who can just listen and provide support. For me, that's my parents. It's best to find someone who's not struggling with similar issues. In some cases, our friends may be who we trust the most, but they often do not have the resources to help us. Finding an older person, whether that be a family member or mentor, can simply just listen, and it's often very helpful to me. Personally, I talk to my parents, mostly my dad, when I need to vent and get things off my chest and just clear my mind and alleviate some of that, like, things that I've been building up inside. Next I have walking. This is so that image that you guys are seeing is a picture I took while I was walking and enjoying being outside and the sunlight. It's possibly my favorite coping skill when I'm overwhelmed and need a break, is to just go for a walk by myself. I like to play a podcast. My favorite is Two Hot Takes. So I like to listen to those Reddit stories and spend time outside. Putting on comfortable clothes and being in the fresh air calms me down. I find extreme peace in nature. If I'm not listening to a podcast, music is another great option. In some cases, I like to just be alone with my thoughts, so I walk without listening to anything and I'm able to process better. Genuinely, I cannot urge enough how lovely a good podcast walk can be. Next, just like Meredith, I have running. I find running not only a way to be outside and get my body moving, but it also releases positive brain chemicals and can be a temporary escape from all that's going on. Our problems should not be avoided, but sometimes it's important to have a release. So
Okay, well, it seems like Claire's computer has a glitch, but we will move on to Natanya right now.
Right. So on my coping skills, sorry about cutting Claire short, but if you're somewhat of a people pleaser or an overachiever or often overthink every little thing, some tool that has really helped me, especially this past year, was practicing positive self-affirmations and cultivating an abundant growth mindset. So when our mindsets are constantly pessimistic or we're always thinking negatively about ourselves, it strongly impacts not only our mental health, but our physical health, our motivation, and even our social health in a lot of areas in our life. Similarly, a concept I learned about earlier in one of my courses this year was the looking glass self. So essentially, this means that what we perceive and assume about how others see us, sorry about that light change, essentially what we perceive and assume about how others see us shapes how we see ourselves because we internalize what we think about or what others think about us. So one way I like to combat this is by writing or even saying out loud these positive affirmations. Positive affirmations are sentences or phrases that can combat those useless negative thoughts with positive reinforcement. For example, each day you could write or say or 5 or however many statements that you like about yourself, such as I am super funny, I can make my friends laugh, have a really nice smile, or I'm really motivated, things like that. And there are tons of affirmations that you can write down and tons you can even find online or on Pinterest, as I like to utilize. And even if you don't fully believe what you're writing, being consistent is going to help you rewire your mindset into being kinder towards yourself, which will also make you feel a lot better. There are also plenty of other ways to practice a positive mindset. For instance, sometimes when I feel like going on my phone, I'll direct my short attention span to watching YouTube videos or influencers, things by uplifting creators who talk about cultivating positive self mindsets and self-confidence. Podcasts are also really great, so the internet is a really good resource for that.
And then Claire, since you've joined back up, do you want to finish your coping skills?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, everybody. My computer was plugged in and somehow still not charging. So, anyways, I was talking about running. Countless studies will inform you that exercise is a wonderful way to boost your mood. That being said, speaking from personal experience, exercise can become compulsive for some. So, knowing your limits and when to rest is important. Balance is key when finding ways to move your body. Just like Sheetal and Natanya were saying, writing and journaling is also another skill I use. In a dream world, I would have a career someday where I get to write. From journaling to poetry, I find writing to be a great coping skill, and it is also something that I love. For a little under a year, I've been journaling before bed to process my day. I've not only noticed reduced stress, but also better sleep. Personally, I have a very busy and loud mind. Journaling helps me quiet this before bed. I use poetry to express myself on a deeper level and as a creative outlet. Finally, I use cold air and breathing as to alleviate more serious experiences of stress and anxiety. As someone who has experienced panic attacks, I find the most I find the most effective strategy is to physically cool myself down and focus on breathing. Panic attacks often bring up my body temperature, but more importantly, extreme cold can be grounding, as in bringing an individual back into the moment and being able to pay attention to their surroundings. In winter, I will take off my jacket and feel the cold air. Sometimes touching an ice pack, ice, or splashing cold water on my face works as well. During a panic attack, I find myself disassociated from the world around me, and the quick cold helps combat this. Next, I focus on my breathing. Deep, calm breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In for 4, out for 4.
So, for me, my favorite coping skill is verbally expressing gratitude by speaking to myself like every morning, saying I'm grateful for a roof and food, or saying I'm thankful for my family and my friends. And this basically just relaxes my nerves for the day and makes me feel so much better about myself and my environment. I also love listening to positive or peaceful music. I try to avoid sad emotional music unless I need something to calm me down. But this can sometimes cause overthinking, so I listen to music while I do something else. And I have a recommendation. A good song for like panic attacks is Slow Dancing in the Dark by Joji. And at the end of this webinar, I will be sending a playlist where everyone can collaborate and share their favorite comfort and uplifting songs. Another coping skill is just taking deep breaths. And one that I really love with my team is playing volleyball and just playing sports in general. And I'm really passionate about it, so it just makes my day so much better. And even when I'm just playing by myself, it comforts me a lot. And this one's really random, but I really like playing with a Rubik's Cube. It just gives me something to fiddle with, and it's pretty fun. And also, I recommend grounding. So I recommend doing this on a walk if possible. Basically, you have to acknowledge and focus on 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear. However, if you're in a silent place, maybe put on some calming music and try to like differentiate the beats and the different sounds going on in the music, like separating the beats from the melody If you can go outside, listen to the birds or like the crickets. And then 2 things you can smell. Go outside into nature and smell the air, flowers, or your neighbor's family barbecue. And 1 thing you can taste. I also really love games, board games, card games, video games. Also, spending time with friends who appreciate you is really important. If you're spending time with people who don't make you feel good, it's not worth your time, I promise. I also remind myself that there are so many more things to appreciate, so much love to give and receive, so many friends to make, more books to read, more artworks to make, so much that I will experience in the future, and that just keeps me hoping for more. That keeps me uplifted, and I think this is really important to think about sometimes when you're feeling down. I really love watching a comfort show or movie or video. As you can see here, it's Howl's Moving Castle. I really love it. It's really comforting, and I just really like Studio Ghibli films in general. So yeah, next slide, please. So I want to ask, what are your favorite comfort shows and movies so we can share? And I'll probably take some suggestions. Nobody has any, that's okay. Okay, never mind. Oh, I've heard of that one. Avatar. Oh, actually, there's a lot. Okay, I just wasn't saying it. Oh my gosh, I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The Good Place is also really good. I need to watch Modern Family. These are all so good. I need to write these down. Like, I love these suggestions. I haven't heard of Ted Lasso actually. I might search that up. Finer upper. Wait, I need to search that up really quick. Oh, I see. Okay, I'll definitely take these into account. I've heard of a lot of these and I love it. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we should move on now. I've been taking a lot of time.
So I'm sorry, I just realized these are out of order, but my coping skills are pretty similar to a lot of other people's. They include talking to people I love, whether that be friends or family, taking a walk, just being outside, listening to music, and laying down. I love just being in my bed.
Chris, I think your mic isn't working.
Okay, so we'll move on from Grace into, do you have any new coping mechanisms that stood out to you that you'd like to try out from all the ones that we mentioned?
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Cold air and water. Yeah, that was a great recommendation from Claire. And grounding. Yeah, I think I'm also going to try that. I don't think I've tried that before. Podcasts. Yeah, I love listening to podcasts. My favorite is this one called Office Ladies. It's about The Office, which is a show that I love watching. Yeah, listening to audiobooks. Yeah, walks. Yeah, exercise is always great, and music. Yeah, it's nice to just be doing mundane tasks and have listening to music. Yeah, crocheting is definitely my favorite. I love it. I've been doing it for a long time, and it's just a great skill that I learned, as well as a coping mechanism. Yeah, journaling. I personally haven't really gotten into journaling, but I might try. Yeah, breaks. My therapist told me to set a timer. So I do 15 minutes and then 5-minute breaks. So I work on homework for 15 minutes and then I give myself a 5-minute break. Yeah, and positive thinking. Yeah, I definitely have to change my mindset a little bit. Yeah, and expressing gratitude. That's a great one as well. Okay, we'll give it a little bit more time and we can move on, or we can actually move back to Grace just so she can talk. Okay, that's good. Grace, now that her mic's working.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect. So some of the things that I like to do is taking a moment to meditate and put things into perspective. So school and extracurricular activities can seem like the entire world to me, and sometimes I just need to take a step back and take a second to remember that I am a lovely human being aside from my grades and how well I perform in sports, how I felt and acted during that one moment, etc. And I like to take a second to validate myself. Um, Journaling has also been a huge help for me, as has been mentioned plenty of times, especially during the pandemic. I kept a journal every day, and it kept me in touch with what I was feeling in the moments when I struggled the most, and it gave me time to reflect and understand myself. I also find that listening to good music can be the best thing for me when I'm feeling like lonely and misunderstood. Music is a very powerful resource and has the power to uplift us and give a voice to feelings we may have not yet come to terms with. I try to keep a healthy balance of songs that allow me to feel sad and songs that help me to feel happy to have the best effect. And then lastly, it's important to take breaks while you work throughout the day, as Meredith said, and as many others have said. For me, the outdoors is always a big help. Getting fresh air in any form, like Claire said, whether it's going for a walk, a run, sitting outside for a few minutes, or even just opening the window and letting in the breeze, it never fails to put me in a better headspace and I feel refreshed.
All right, thank you, Grace. And lastly, I wanted to provide everyone in the audience with an opportunity to provide feedback on the Together for Wellness / Juntos por Nuestro Bienestar digital wellness platform. So essentially, it is a digital wellness website made for all Californians by the UC Davis Center for Reducing Health Disparities and partners. And we'd love to get your youth-specific feedback. And you also have the opportunity to earn up to $110 for the completion of 2 surveys. So feel free to sign up by using the QR code or take a screenshot of the link in the flyer. And the first survey will take about 1 hour to complete, and then you'll be followed up with the second survey in a few weeks afterwards. So, yeah.
Okay, we'll give you a minute if you want to screenshot that or use the QR code. It should show up on Menti, so you can, if you go to menti.com, if you haven't already, you can click on the link or use the QR code when it pops up on Menti. Okay, so now we'll move on. So this is our final survey. We want to thank everyone for bearing with us through all our technical difficulties and participating today. And we ask that you take a survey, and this will determine, at the end, there's a link to enter your email. And once you enter your email, you'll be entered into our raffle to win a gift card or a prize.
Does anyone have any questions before? And
Feel free to leave them in the chat
yeah,
or any feedback you might have, constructive
yes, please.
criticism or anything. Also, I'd just like to say thank you all so much for joining. I know it's not always the most fun way to spend your evening to just sit on a Zoom, but I hope you all gained something from this. And yeah, now you're gonna be entered in a raffle, and that's gonna be very exciting.
Yeah, I really hope everyone enjoyed. It's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and please get your survey responses in this evening, because after this evening we're going to close the survey. Yeah, and thank you all for joining us and listening to us tell you our personal experiences.
I guess in other words, this concludes our presentation. So unless you guys have any questions or comments, you're free to hop off. And make sure you fill out the survey though. Okay, I think
we're good, right?
yeah, that's what I was